thanks for coming back. My name's Lindsay and this is Harris.
Hey guys.
So Harris is from HWN Aesthetics and we're going to be doing like a little mini interview today. So I'm going to be going through and asking some questions that I've written down on my laptop, and then Harris is going to kindly go through and just give us a rundown on a bit of his background, what he does, and a few things in the industry.
Yeah,
Sound
absolutely.
good?
Excited.
Perfect. Okay, Harris, I will leave you with the floor. If you want to start by telling us a little bit about what you do in your clinic, a bit about your background, and go from there.
Absolutely. So before I joined the aesthetics industry, I managed CQC registered care homes for people with like autism, learning disabilities, and just like general like healthcare needs. And then I decided I wanted to go into the aesthetics industry, and I joined about 3 years ago. So I went to Birmingham and Wolverhampton, and did my foundation training. I started off doing like your basics like lips, Botox, and then kind of just like gone from there. And at the minute, we pretty much offer any like non-surgical treatment. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Nice. I didn't know you did that before you did aesthetics.
I absolutely loved it, and I do still have a passion with it. And I used to do like, before I did like aesthetics full time, I used to do that on the side, but because that's a stressful job like in itself, like doing aesthetics, and which is, as you know, really stressful. It was like too much. It was like living two lives, so I had to kind of like choose one or the other, and find aesthetics far more passionate. So
I get that. That's nice though. That's nice. Okay, so first main question for you is, what are your favourite treatments and why?
So, okay, this is a really, really hard question because I love everything that I offer. But I'd probably say my most favourite is noses, even though they're still scary. I think the transformation you can get with that is like 10 out of 10, isn't it? Like you get, when you show the mirror to a client and they like start crying with happiness. I've had that the most with noses. Do you know what I mean?
When I do a treatment and I show the client, they can start crying.
Yeah, and then I start crying too. And then we're all just a blubbering mess, like literally.
I love it.
Mess, yeah.
I love it.
So I absolutely love doing noses for like the before and after, and like the transformation, the journey. But my heart lies mostly with like middle-aged, anti-aging, like mid-face rejuvenation. That's my favourite.
Same.
I know
same.
your favourite too. I know. And you did some banging work as well. You posted some the other day, didn't you? And it was like 10 out of 10.
I feel like I go through phases at the minute where I'm like obsessed with like a certain treatment, and then because that's all I'm posting, then that's all I get for like the next like few weeks.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
really weird. But yeah, I love that. Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
That happens, doesn't it? Like I go through a phase of doing like no noses, and then I'll go through a phase of doing like 15 in a month.
Yeah. It literally is. I love it. Okay, so what is your favourite thing about your job as a whole?
So to put it into like one kind of category, I'd say my favorite thing is meeting so many different people, like from different walks of life. So my client base is so broad. So like I've got like 20 to 30 who love like coming in for their lips, or just like small tweaks like their chin and their cheeks. And then like a vast majority of my client base is like 40 plus, who obviously come for like mid-face that we just spoke about. And I think it's the difference in people that you get in, and the different things you learn from them people, and how close you become to your clients as well. I'd probably say that's my most favorite thing. Like I've learned so much about people and about the world, not even in just my job, just by meeting all these different people.
Definitely, because you don't realize how many people out there that, even though they're all coming for sort of like the same reason, they come from all different walks of life.
Yeah, so different.
Yeah,
and like the bigger you get people, which obviously we're blessed for, you get people from all across the country. So like I'm all the way up in Lincolnshire, and I've got some clients that come from all the way from London on the train, come to see me, and then go all the way home that day. So you meet so many different people from like different walks of life, and I absolutely love that.
I love that. That's so nice as well. When you think, when clients turn up and you think, cool, you've travelled like hours and hours just to come here. Like, it's weird, isn't it?
It's absolutely crazy. And then you get a bit of like, what's that thing, imposter syndrome, because you're like, they've come all this way to like see me, like, and there's probably people as good like in their area. And like literally someone came to the clinic with like a rucksack, like loads of bags. And I was like, oh, where have you come from? They're like, oh, from London. I was like, oh, do you have like family up here? She was like, no, I'm going back there today. And all she did was just
Wow.
come to tear trough. Like, it's just crazy, isn't it?
I bet then you was panicking even more, thinking, oh my
Yeah.
God, like it's
This
got to
is
be good.
this has got to be 10 out of 10. Or yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
that's so funny. No, I completely agree. I love that. All right, so bit controversial. What's
Go
the
on.
worst thing about your job? What do you hate?
Okay, so I'd probably say it's the people that don't come to you for like a journey or a transformation. They just come for the treatment. And I know that
Mm,
might sound a bit like, well, everyone just comes for the treatment, but I really get to know my clients. I don't really just do all treatments in one day. They often come to me over like the space of like 6 months. I'd probably say the biggest thing that I don't like is that they just see me as like the syringe filler. If that
yeah,
makes sense. So like I often get questions like, and don't get me wrong, of course everything comes down to price, like it absolutely does. But I'll often get messages like, how much for half a mil? And the messages really dishearten me because it's like I'm not just a price, like I'm invested so much and you
yeah,
come to me for a journey and you're coming to me for your transformation, but you're just seeing me as somebody who administers half a mil of filler. Does
yeah.
that make
I
sense?
Yeah, I get that. I get it's hard because obviously people are on a budget
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
not everyone has got, that amount of income that's just disposable. But it's the same, I get that all the time where I feel guilty as well when I say to people, like
Absolutely, yeah.
when people come in for a consultation, and normally it's older clients going on sort of not old but older, like 50s onwards, where they're starting to lose a lot of volume,
Mm,
and maybe they've got like crepey skin and they want pulling back, and they're like, oh, I want this and I want this and I want, free areas and this, and they name every product under the sun, and I'll say, okay, well, you're not gonna have that done today and leave with that. This is gonna be like a process.
it's a
And
journey,
then
actually.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
give them a price and they're like, oh well, I've only got £100.
Mm, literally.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
I'm
it's
with you. It's really disheartening. And like
mm,
we've in our clinic we've changed things this past year, so we don't price lips anymore on the quantity. And I just say to people like, well, half a mil, filler comes in 1 mil syringes. So if you use half a mil, 0.7 or 1 mil, the rest goes in the bin.
yeah, 100%, yeah,
Like stop doing it. So like my price for treatments is for how much you use, and I always say to them, like without being rude, you don't choose how much goes in. I choose because you might think you need half a mil, but I think you might look better with 0.7,
yeah,
or vice versa. They might
mm,
think, oh, I want a whole mil, but I think, well, no, you might look a bit too overfilled unless we put 0.4 in. So we've completely changed how we measure lips in terms of quantity. So
I
it's
love
just one
that.
price, and if they come for half a mil, they come for half a mil, and if they come for 1 mil, it's the same price.
Yeah, I
And that's
get
what
that because
so
you're
far.
not just paying for the box, you're paying for all of your experience, all your training, like your overhead, your insurance, everything. And I don't think people realise that.
No,
I've started
absolutely.
doing that for mid-face rejuvenation. So near on every single person that's messaged to book in for it has said, oh, I want to book in for mid-face, but it doesn't say on there how many mils used.
Mm,
So I say, like, same as you, I say, well, I don't know how many mil you need until you come in and I assess you properly. But the price is the price. It's done as a treatment, whether you have 2 or 3 or whether you need 4 or 5, you know,
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
done as a treatment and you're paying for, the whole slot and everything around it.
Yeah.
But I said to a client once, she was a new client, and I don't know whether it was just the way I hadn't worded it properly, but she messaged and said how much she's like, how many mil comes with it. And I said, oh, it's anything from 2 to 4 5ish, just depends on what you need. So she came in and she said, oh, I want it really, really natural, I've never had it done before, I just want a very natural lift. So I think we ended up putting 3 mil in, and she did get a really nice lift, but again, it was natural because that's what she wanted.
Yeah.
um, and a couple of months later she messaged and said, well, because we only used 3 mil, can I have the extra 1 or 2 put in
I
under
just
the same price? And I was like,
no, yeah. And
but
that's
yeah, it's
away
so
from it.
frustrating.
Yeah, that's why I moved away from it because I just think they're just seeing us as people who just administer filler, and like
Mm,
so much more than that. Like we take into account your whole face, like how it suits you, your anatomical structure, like so many different things. So I've
mm,
just had to move away from it. And like you said, if I've ever said, oh, we've used 0.4 today, they'll be like, well, can I come back with the other 0.6? Well, no, because it doesn't work like that. Because if I think you needed it, I would have put it in.
yeah,
And also they're getting like they need to see it as a positive because say like you was just saying with the mid-face rejuvenation, if they might use 2 mil or they might use 5, or say if you thought, well, actually, we could maybe put a 6 mil in, they're not paying extra for that.
No.
And that's what I say, like, even it's extremely rare, like I've probably only ever done it twice in my whole like aesthetics career. But say if they needed say if we use a full syringe of filler and we needed to open up another one and just put 0.2 somewhere, don't get me wrong, it hardly ever happens. Well, they're benefiting from that because I'm not going to charge them double because I've opened up a new box.
Yeah, of course.
And you're on the treatment, not the amount.
Yeah, because they're paying for the result, ideally.
And when you really explain it to them, the penny does drop. But it probably puts off so many people coming to me. But that's fine because it doesn't align with me. Like I align in the treatment, not the actual amount of going in. So
100%, and it will probably put off the people that you don't want.
Absolutely.
Anyway, if that makes sense. So
and get on to that. That's another thing to talk about is like alignment and clients and other things I've learned going through.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I first started and I was putting up cheap deals and I had so many complaints. Well, not even complaints, just like a certain type of client that was very argumentative, wanted everything for nothing. And these were all the people that were paying like pennies for it to be done really cheap. And I've found the more I put my prices up, the less of that I get.
Absolutely. And you attract what you give out.
100%.
And that is so important. So when I first started, I would do anything to kind of get business in. Like I would put like really cheap deals out. Like I'd do anything just to try and grow as much as I could. When I actually realised that's the worst thing you can do, because as soon as you have a price, people come to you for your worth, not just for the amount of money. So like you were just saying, then like now people aren't attracted to coming to you unless they want you rather than just looking at the price. And of course, price is important, but like I don't get like 20-ish-year-olds now who just coming in because it's cheap. I get people who come to me because it's me and they care about what's going in their face. So
100%, yeah. They know you're going to give them a good result and that's what they're paying for at the end of the day.
Got to align right, like, and that's something I've really learned is if it doesn't feel right anymore, I don't do it. Like sometimes I literally lose like thousands a month by turning people away because now I do treatments that like I know protect my peace.
Yeah, 100%. No, I completely agree. Good, amazing. Okay, so let's go on to, so that actually rolls into the next question. So the next question is things you wish you knew when you were starting out, and then that sort of goes into, so things you wish you knew when you were starting out, and then with that, would you do anything differently if you had the chance to like start again? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that I would say I wish I knew before I started out is to absolutely not compare yourself to other people. So only look at others if you're looking for inspiration. Don't ever look to compare. So Instagram is fake, Facebook is fake, social media is fake. I see it all the time. Like people say things like they're so busy, they're this, that, and the other. When actually they're not, and that's fine. Like fake it till you make it. Like we've all been there. Yeah. But when I first started, I remember thinking like, oh my god, there's people who've done it less time than me, and they've got these fully booked clinics. They're smashing it, and I'm getting like one client a week. I remember thinking like, well, I can't carry on doing this. So I wish that looking back at my poor old self is to just not compare and that you're on your own journey, if that makes sense. I never went into like mindfulness or anything until I started my own business, but now I'm a really firm believer in like you're on your own journey for a reason and your journey can't compare to somebody else.
Yeah, 100% agree. I'm literally the same. When I started this job, I never did like any of that mindfulness, but now I think when you become a business owner, not even just in aesthetics, but you're doing literally a million jobs all by yourself, and it can really sit on your mental health really, really bad.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to have a cut off between your business and personal life. And I think it's so important to make sure that you're having a work-life balance. So yeah, I completely agree. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's like what people don't understand is the more you grow as well, the more there is to do. And there's some days I wake up to do admin and I'm just that overloaded, I can't do anything. And I can't live my life like that, if that makes sense. So you've got to realize that things come in time and not everything, because I'm like you, if I want something, I want it now.
Yeah.
And we laugh about this, don't we? Because like if I want to do something, I'll book it. Like if I want to train in something new, I'll book it, I'll pay it, and I'll go and do it. And I just invest. But you have to understand that things take time and not everything comes at once, and that's the best for organic growth.
Yeah, definitely. No, I
And
completely
so
agree.
I would absolutely warn myself that this industry is the most catty industry I've ever seen. Literally seen. It's full of jealousy, bitter, and hate. And as long as you're a good person yourself, I think you attract, like we said earlier, what you put out. Like I've become really good friends with you because we're both people. But I've learned the hard way with some people that only want you for one reason, and it's either to be mean to you or just try and like copy you in a sense. So
Yeah. Some people will try and use you and jump off and sort of like hang off of you to try and do well.
Yeah, like the bigger you grow, like people try to hang on to your success, don't they? And I don't mean that in a big-headed way. Like I've worked really, really hard, but a lot of people, yeah, like you're saying, they just try and cling on to you, and they're not there for like the purest of intentions.
Yeah.
And the hard way, like by becoming close to people and it not working out, and then seeing what they're doing, seeing what they're saying about me, and things like that. And there's a lot of bitter, jealous people in this industry. It's a shame.
100%. And I think as well, the more speaking out to like newbies that are starting out, it's really hard because even for me, there's so many times where I've gone on Instagram and looked and I've seen, you know, I don't know, this practitioner and they're opening 50 million clinics in the UK and they're, you know, opening somewhere in Marbella and Dubai and all of this. And I used to get so jealous at first. I used to think, oh, I want to do that. Like, I want to be big and I want to do this and I want to do that. And only ever since I opened my second clinic, obviously now I've closed it and I've scaled back completely to just the one. Even just opening that one and then having a second training academy, that was just too much for me to handle mentally.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like in a real honest way, it put me in a really bad mental health place. And I was so miserable all the time. I couldn't cope with the amount of work that I was having. I couldn't deal with, like, you know, if I was in Bexley Heath and there was a situation with a client in my Essex clinic, I would just go into meltdown because I'm like, well, I'm not there.
Yeah,
What am I going to do? And it was just too much. And I think now I've realised that the whole reason that I wanted to work for myself was to have a better quality of life. It wasn't to compete and be the best in the country, because I think the more you progress, and not saying it's a bad thing to progress, because it's not, it's amazing to progress and do well. You know, there's people out there who's smashing it, and I look and I think, how the hell do you not have daily breakdowns? Because I would. But I think it's so important to remember that you do it for your work-life balance, and you know, you work for yourself to have freedom, you know. And I found I'm definitely guilty of this, and you probably are too. Even though you work for yourself, and people must think, oh, you must get loads of time. Like, you don't, because you're constantly booking yourself in, trying to earn more. You're stressing yourself out. Even on your days off, you're doing admin and all sorts. And you know, I think it's really important to understand that. And I think for me, if I could tell myself anything when I first started out in the industry, it would be just to stay not on my own as such, because obviously the girls that I've got in the clinic are amazing. I would never go anywhere without them, but just stop chasing and just accept where you are and live peacefully.
I know, I completely agree. No, you're spot on. And it's like the more you kind of take on, the more, like I was saying earlier, it affects your peace. Sometimes it's just not worth it. Like my poor boyfriend, sometimes I'll be watching a film at like 11 o'clock at night and I'm replying to clients and he's like, get off your phone. I'm like, you don't understand, like there's just me. And like if I don't do this, like my business won't grow. And sometimes you have to take a seat back and think, well, actually, like this isn't a way to live your life. And I think all guilty for it. Like I'm sure James, your fiance, probably says the same. Like, Lindsay, what are you doing? Like, get off your phone. Like it's a Sunday now, and what are we doing? We're doing a podcast about aesthetics. Do you know what I mean? Like, but we love our jobs and we want to grow, and but it's not always the best, is it? You know, like sometimes it affects your peace.
Yeah, it's definitely important to realise that you need a work-life balance, and
100%.
just realise why you're doing it, and you know the importance of it. Because if you put 1,000,000% into something and you don't have that personal life, you will end up resenting it.
Yeah.
And obviously then that's not what anyone wants.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm with you. And one more thing before we move I know I'm not the one. I know you're interviewing me, so I'm trying
Go
not
on, go for it.
I would say to myself, be prepared to grow the thickest skin you ever have in your life. Like I used to think I was really good at like not caring what people think, having a really thick skin. Like, I was like one of the youngest registered managers in the UK running care homes, and like so the pressure of being so young, I thought I developed like a really thick skin.
Mm.
But it's not until you join this job, like you have to grow the thickest skin. Like, I've been through so much with my business, and before it used to get me down, but now I see these problems as like learning curves and like kind of just manifest it a bit differently. So like just a couple of examples for you. I've like done a 30-year-old's lips. They've gone swollen like normal. And I've had their like 65-year-old mum messaging me threatening to sue me. Like, and yeah, I know, like 30 years. And you know, when you're but when you're in that moment, you're like, I mean, I'm trying not to swear, but you're like, oh my gosh, aren't you?
Yeah,
Um,
stressful.
yeah, like I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but your bum all goes twitchy, doesn't it? And you're just like,
Literally.
but like now I see that and it like I've got such a thick skin, I let it blow over my head. And like now I'm just like, well, sorry, but you're not my client confidentiality, can't speak to you. Like,
Yeah.
that's how I see it, and you just grow a really thick skin. And
Mm.
like the amount of times where I've had like, even though I've hammered in the consultation, you're going to be swollen, your results aren't going to look like this, they'll might be lumpy and bumpy for a couple of days, and then they'll get home and send me the most vile abuse. Whereas like now, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
And it comes
Yeah.
with time.
We've even had the conversation in the clinic where, like, I mean, we're joking, but we're not joking.
Yeah,
We were like, we're gonna have to get, what are they called? Are they dictaphones? You know, like where you've got like a little voice recording box
yeah,
in the room when you're going through a consultation with someone.
yeah,
Because the amount of times that I've had consultations, and you're probably the same with my regulars, you know, if they're coming in like 6 times a year, I don't have the same conversation with
no,
them because
absolutely
they
not.
know. But when you're a newbie, I go in with the information, like I
Yeah,
go
yeah,
in hard. And when they come back and say, oh, well, I didn't know I was going to be swollen, I'm just like, oh my God, give me strength.
I know,
But
I
you've
know.
just got to let things, because things like that used to really, really trigger me. And I'd come home and I'd go, oh, like, this has happened today. And James is like, but you know people like that. So why do you let it bother you? You've told them what's going to happen. The fact that they've not listened is not your fault. But I
Actually,
used
yeah.
to let it really get to me. But now I just sort of let it go over my head.
Absolutely. Like sometimes I come home and cry and be like, I can't carry on. Like this is ridiculous. And now I
Mm.
just laugh. I'm just like, well, I told you. I would never laugh at a client, but like in situations where like someone's 65-year-old mother's messaging me saying I've effed her daughter's lips because they're a little bit swollen.
Yeah.
Now I just laugh. And guess what? To make it even worse, after the 2 weeks have gone down, the mum messaged me saying they were beautiful and tried to book in herself. So do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you just got to laugh. Like sometimes you just got to laugh.
it sounds about right. I bet you were like, absolutely not.
That's absolutely not, hun. Like you're on the bottom of the list if you're even going to be on the list. Like,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
funny. People have so much front, don't they?
yeah,
Imagine what he would have
absolutely.
said coming in.
Yeah, threatening to sue me over a bit of swelling. Like you had a needle in your lip, love. What do you think was going to happen? Like,
So,
yeah,
it's so funny, this industry.
yeah, it's crazy.
Oh,
Definitely would know to be prepared to grow the thickest of skins.
yeah, no, definitely. Oh, amazing. All right, well, we'll leave it there. We don't want to ramble on for too long. So thank you so much for joining me and answering all our questions.
Honoured, so thank you.
Thank you. I will, guys, anyone who's watching this, I'll put this onto my YouTube and we'll upload bits and bobs as we do. But anyone who's got any questions for Harris, please drop them in the comments below or give either one of us a DM. I'll put Harris's Instagram in the link below as well, so you can click and give him a follow. And we will see you next time.
Oh, thanks,
Bye.
guys. Thanks for listening.